Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And as always, this episode, you're going to get real talk with a real leader, and we're breaking down hot topics that help you take your game to the next level. So today's episode, folks, we are going to be breaking down why agencies are successful and not. So this is for the brand marketers out there. This is for the agency junkies. We are going to hit a ton of topics, but in an organized fashion, of course. And I am truly honored to have with us today Mike Palma. Mike is an industry vet, to say the least. He is the owner and founder of the Palma Group. He is an author of a book that just came out that we're going to talk about in depth here. The title of it is Walk with a Humble Swagger, Lessons from the Recruiting Trail in Basketball and Advertising. And folks, of course, he's a leadership athlete. So Mike, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Shauna, thank you. I'm honored and thrilled. I'm a big fan of yours and your podcast, and I'm thrilled to be here. It's a dream come true. It's the culmination of my entire career. But I feel that way.
You're one of those people that I always heard about in the industry from my days in agency world. And then, of course, I've heard of you recently, and we're going to get to a lot of topics, including announcing a partnership with Change. Heard about you there. And so, again, when I say I'm honored to have you on, I'm like, I truly mean it. So, folks, I always tell you how I know my guests. So I know Mike because he is very good friends with. It's so funny to hear the two of them going at each other. He is very good friends with the founder of Change Force management consulting firm that I'm a part of. So that is George Swisher, who's been on the show before. So Mike and George have been doing a lot of great work together. And so part of this episode is announcing a new partnership between the Palma Group and Change Force. So that's really taken that work you've done with George over the years to the next level. So talk to us about, what you're thinking really about the two entities coming together.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I've worked with George for 15 years. We started working together kind of convivially in 2009. And then we formalized our relationship shortly thereafter. And, George is the strategic guy, and I'm the tactic, and I've had great, we've both had great success together. I've had great success just following the Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs that George has left on the ground for me to follow the trail. And it's funny. I mean, we're announcing this partnership. I never felt like I didn't have a partnership with George. Like
but that's partners. What happens when you have great teammates, right?
Yeah, that's right. So for 15 years, we've been partners, but now George has this new outfit, Change AI, and let's see how it goes. I'm excited. I'm fired up. So we're out of the gates. We got some new things, some new offerings to talk about later in the podcast, but bring it on, Change AI and the Palma Group. I'm all in.
Yeah, it's really exciting, And so we're going to kind of break it down, folks. So, Mike, I skipped this in the intro purposely because I knew we were going to dive into it here. So your specialty has been really both for brand marketers, helping them get better resources, creative resources, and for agencies managing their search process. So you have really helped with that creative review process. You help get, new talent, better talent. So talk to us about like that, call it like that special sauce you're going to bring to the partnership.
Okay, great. Well, the Palma Group, we do a lot of things, none of them particularly well. No, I'm only kidding. And we do a few things, and it's an ecosystem. There's a cliche word, but it really is. We help brands find agencies. We help agencies find new clients, and we help both find new talent. Our core business for 35 years has been executive recruiting, but that led to other offerings. And right now, our agency search business, helping CMOs find ad agencies, is a very robust offering because of our revolutionary way of doing it. But we do three things, and all three things are bridge to each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we should feed into AI what I do, and it could explain better what we do.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I love how you really did. You focused on those three things to help the
Yeah.
audience, with those takeaways. One thing, you are being humble, so I'm going to say this.
No.
One thing that you do bring to the table is because of your connection to the CMOs, because of your connection and your, experience running those reviews, you actually have critical information for agencies that are usually pitching themselves that they usually can't get in those meetings. So again, if you're listening to this, folks, part of how you can think about, what Mike does, what the Palma Group does is it's a bit of that experience, that knowledge, again, that like you want and you need, but it's really hard to get on your own. So, and I can speak obviously because of my role with Change Force, folks, how we're merging the two. The Change Force side is a lot of work that I do with the founder, George Swisher, with my partner in crime in revenue growth consulting, Bob Wiesner, and Bob Gower, who really has a focus on the organizational effectiveness. So the Change Force side is helping revenue growth be done in a scalable way, winning and getting more business, retaining and growing the customers. So that's the second one. And then the third one is that helping the agencies run as efficiently as possible. So, you can see the two brands are, the two companies are like pieces of the puzzle coming together. Right. And again, going off what we were saying earlier, it's that team coming together, right? And so we talked about earlier the dynamic of teammates, and you're a basketball person. So you have in the book that he writes, folks, there's a connection between the game of basketball, and the game of business, as I talk about it. But I think that when you find the right team, that chemistry is unbeatable, right? So talk about your experience bringing the two together, business and basketball.
Sure. Well, the book is number one on Amazon in both today. We'll see how many hours that lasts. We'll see if that lasts for 4 hours. Their analytics are so real time that it almost goes sale by sale. But basketball, hey, I'm a team guy. I was lucky to play for great coaches, and I was a high school All-American, Parade Magazine All-American, became a college player and a college coach. So I'm all in on the team thing. And I've always approached my agency work as with the mentality of a basketball coach. Hey, everything I do involves coaching.
Yeah.
You try moving a top talent from Boulder, Colorado to Harrisburg, PA. That takes coaching. Okay?
It takes good. It does.
Try getting an agency owner to hire a creative director with zero creative director experience. David Baldwin, who's in the Hall of Fame now, that takes coaching. Try to get a meeting for an agency with a top prospect. That takes coaching. Try to run a review for a retailer in New England, which I am now, which we're looking at 12 to 15 agencies. That takes coaching. So, I'm a team guy. I'm a team player. I think the greatest thing you can say about anyone is they make the people around them better.
So true.
Okay, that to me is the definition of greatness. Is do you make everyone around you better? And that's what I'm looking forward to doing at Change, and vice versa. I'm as old as I am. I learn every day, and I approach my business as a student, and I probably have a lot to learn from you, from Bob, not from George. No, I'm only kidding. I learn all the time. I love killing George.
I know you do. I know. No,
But he
you know,
gets it.
yeah, absolutely. But, it is about like everybody bringing their expertise to the table and then, coming together. And that's when, for people who are listening to this, when you're finding the right resources, like that's the mindset I think to be looking for. And I know I'm specifically talking about us as our companies are
Right,
coming together, but
right.
it's also folks like if you're out there and you are looking for new talent, if you're looking for these things, I think that the characteristics that Mike is talking about are important to keep in mind because these, again, when you're adding talent, it's important. So whether that talent is, a full-time hire or a partner that you're going to be working with. So Mike, from all the experience that you have, I'd love to get into some of the what you're seeing out there in the industry. What are you seeing out there for agencies? What are some of these pain points?
Um, I think the I've been doing this 35 years. The consistent pain point is uh, getting new business and getting top talent.
Yeah.
Always was, always will be. There's two guarantees in our business. One is accounts come and go, and two is people come and go.
It's
So, and we thrive on that kind of environment. But pain point is change. As much as agencies talk about being change agents, they have a tough time keeping up with it.
yeah,
And new business and people are the pain points. It's a it's a very unusual time in our industry, but I can't remember one time in 35 years when it wasn't. So,
yeah,
um, it's just a different kind of unusual.
yeah.
And maybe we can get to that. I don't want to get too micro, but the pain points are new business and top talent always.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many times, again, from a lot of that revenue growth work that I do at Change Force with Bob Wiesner, I see this time and time again that new business, a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go out and do the like spray and pray, right? The more outreach I do, it's just a matter of numbers.
Yeah,
But it isn't just that, there's so much to it. And sometimes getting a meeting really does just come down to relationships and
yeah,
who can help you open up that door. And I know you and I both think like getting new business meetings is really hard. I mean, it
yeah,
sucks. It's
yeah.
so hard to do. So, what are some of the things that you bring to the table with getting new business meetings that people can think of?
Well, you got to buy the book for that, but I'll tease a few out. So you said something that for for years, for 20 years, I've said new business is not a numbers game.
No.
So I'm glad we were able to debunk that myth right away. It's just like recruiting college basketball players, which I did at Holy Cross College. I didn't recruit 500, 1,000 players. We started with a list of 150, and we broke it down to 30 that we recruited. We recruited 30 every year, and we had to get 5 or 3. We had to sign 3 or 5 of our top prospects. So I think if agency owners and new business people approach new business, and which is getting meetings. You're not going to get new business without meetings. Sorry, even in this digital world. Um, if you treated your new business efforts as a college basketball coach would treat recruiting, it's funny. I launched my company, relaunched my company in '06 as a new business firm for agencies. We were always a headhunting firm. And it was built on the premise that that new business is recruiting. It's just it's a different kind of recruiting, but you're recruiting
Yeah.
prospects. You're recruiting like-minded prospects to not brands, people,
Yeah.
CMOs, people. A lot of times, agencies get caught up in chasing a brand when you're literally courting a person. Not you're not chasing a brand. It's love. It's dating. It's a courtship. And
Yeah.
I failed miserably at that, but I'm pretty successful the agency courtship world. But
That's such a good point too, because one of the biggest like Achilles heel things that I find and Bob Wiesner finds is when people go about that courtship. I love that you talked about it that way because I've long done that. Is they go in and they're like, "Let me tell you all about me.
right,
I'm so wonderful. I am
yeah,
so great.
right,
And if folks, if you're hearing this again, imagine you're on a date. Someone walks in and they're like, "Oh, let me tell you how wonderful I am. I'm so wonderful. I'm marriage material." You turn off your ears, right? And so, I think like in new business efforts, when you're trying to get those meetings, one of the things that I find people often fail is they send these cold emails. There's all about how wonderful they themselves are, their own or agency is. And so, again, I love the way that you're drawing that parallel to recruiting, because if you go to recruit a top prospect, you got to lean into them, right?
yeah.
So talk about what are you seeing some of these when you're trying to get new business meetings, what are some of the problems that you're seeing agencies, experience?
Well, I mean, I hate to keep saying this, but I'm going to keep saying it. Like, you got to buy the book for that.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I've got entire chapters on, and I don't like to ridicule agencies. They've been my clients for 35 years, but ad agencies are really smart. Just ask them. That's
Oh
one line.
yeah. Yeah.
That's one line. I, I'll tell a story quick,
Okay.
because stories do better than commentary. Uh, every time I get a review from a client, CMO, the first question I ask them is why they're looking for a new agency. And I hope this really helps your
Yeah,
agency
yeah.
people. And there are usually 3 or 4 answers to that. But one I get commonly is, I read my case study on their website, and it was really appalling the way they took credit for the things that they had a place in our marketing plan. But hey, we invested $2 billion in new beef, Arby's. We rebuilt every 8 store in the system. Zaxby's, Church's Chicken. Agencies are very braggy, and it turns clients off. And there you go. Walk with a humble swagger. It's a theme that permeates the entire book,
Yeah.
and how to re-communicate, to adjust your communications to win new business and get top talent. So yes, there's this braggy, chest beating, look at us. Hey, just go to LinkedIn and count how many people call themselves a freaking expert. This, anytime I get like a note from somebody to connect on LinkedIn and it says expert at what, I gong them right away. I don't want experts. I don't want to deal with experts, because I've learned they're not team players and they're usually insufferable to deal with.
Yeah.
So I could talk forever on that topic, but I hope I gave you and your listeners enough there. Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah, no, it's really important. And I think when you were talking about what the characteristics that you look for that aren't that way, or what does that tell you about them in a negative way, what it tells me about the people oftentimes is they're not coachable. And I think too many
Good,
times,
good.
like we all need to continue to be
So true.
coachable. You and
Yeah,
I started talking earlier about like always learning, right? So it doesn't matter how senior you are, how experienced you are,
but
we all need to continue to be coachable and put in the work every day. And that's why partly, that's my leadership athlete mindset that I talk
right,
about and
right,
that I see in you and that you talk about in the book. Like that level of
right,
grit, coachability,
right.
resilience that you bring to the table is all about walking with a humble swagger.
Right, and it's a little sad sometimes. Hey, no one was less humble than me as a kid growing up. I mean, part of the book is this coming of age story where you learn humility and you learn that through defeat and
Yeah.
bouncing back up. So it's kind of sad. I don't want to be completely critical of experts, but it is sad, because the older you get, the more you realize that braggy, conceited mindset is really rooted in insecurity, and it's a little sad, I mean, I speak from experience that, there was nobody more insecure. I might have been a Parade Magazine All-American, but emotionally I was an insecure kid. And I know why I was a jerk, now, that's what maturing is. But I was insecure, not as a player, as a person, and I'm not a psychiatrist. My daughter is studying to be one, but I know this much. The more there's an inverse reality to bragging and insecurity. There's an inverse proportion to that.
It's so true.
Sad.
It's so true. It's so true. There is something that sometimes can be hard to explain, but I've actually heard you on a show, on somebody else's show, doing this or explaining this. Well, it's when you walk with a humble swagger, it doesn't mean that you don't know your own value. You do know your own value because you're coming to work just like you came to the hardwood every day, right? Come to the boardroom with that level of grit and resilience and hard work, and you're putting in your reps every day. And you do know your own value though, and you are coachable because we're, as competitors, we're competing to be better than every yesterday that we've had, or that we will have. So, again, anything that you can share with the audience.
Sure, I could talk about that one all day. First of all, I was fortunate to play for a guy named Jim Valvano, who I learned a lot from. In fact, 30% of the book's proceeds go to the V Foundation for Cancer Research, the Dick Vitale Pediatric Research Fund. And one thing, in fact, maybe one of the most important things I learned from Coach Valvano was hard work doesn't guarantee you anything. But there is one guarantee, that if you don't work hard, you'll fail. Unless you're a member of the Lucky Sperm Club, then you don't even need to work. You're just screwing around anyway. Exactly. But if you're like most of us, like hard work doesn't guarantee you anything. Grit, all that stuff, it doesn't guarantee you a thing. But the one guarantee is if you don't, you'll fail. Yeah. And so let's start practice with that premise, okay? Like, let's not. So I know my value. It's relative. And that allows you to walk with that swagger. But every day I learn something new and I get knocked off my high horse with something, I mean, every day brings a new challenge. And, just when you think you have it all figured out, the rules change. And so I'm, there are a lot of things that suck about being old. Like I lost 20 yards off my driver. I mean, that sucks. But one of the good things is you have this perspective from life that, it's like writing a book. I mean, I was very reluctant. This book has been ready for 10 years. But I was reluctant to release it because I felt like it's like wearing a bow tie. Like, if you're old, you get to wear a bow tie. If you're too young to wear a bow tie, you look like a dork, And I think business books are that way too. I wanted to have a legitimate, mature perspective on the advertising and marketing industry. And my opinions have tempered over the years. I mean, if we did this podcast 15, 20 years ago, there would obviously have been a different Mike Palma. But that's one of the saving graces about aging is this mature perspective on people and things, So.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about the 10 years ago versus the Mike then, the Mike today, I talk about it a lot as like evolution. It's like, you're right. You think things are going well, and then the universe comes and wipes your feet out from under you. You take your shot and you get the shot rejected. You're like, oh shit, I got to get back in there and start working. Continue with that hard work. To your point, And I think something that you're getting really close to, but I'll fill in the word for it, is self-awareness. If you
Mm,
don't have that level of self-awareness and that desire to be better every day, you're trying to get to where you're meant to be.
right.
And you do that by that self-awareness and that evolving and
Yeah.
bringing to it all those, characteristics that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So, I just, again, folks, if you're the folks in the audience, we're talking about some of these things that are, again, the parallels, right? Between we're all humans at the end of the day, and how
Yeah.
are we actually showing up in work, leading others, leading
Yeah.
ourselves, because that's when you really are a difference maker in the work that you do. So, but going back to that, we talked earlier about pain points that you're seeing agencies have, and you talked about recruiting, getting new top talent, and getting business meetings, which is two things that you bring to the table for them, and with the
For
Palma Group side
agencies.
of
Yeah.
things. Yeah, for agencies, right.
Right.
And then, so the brand marketers that you're dealing with,
Right.
what's the pain points that you're seeing them have?
Well, I mean,
Are they the same?
first of all, the hardest part that brand people have is they have a full-time job.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, agency people don't. They think they're working so hard. And and it's hard for them to keep up with their agency. And God forbid they need a new one. I mean, there are 5 or 6 search consultants that are out there that I think that are good, and we all have our own clients and our own categories. But biggest pain point is when a client knows they need a new agency, which is 40% of 60% of new CMOs need a new agency or want a new agency. So that's quite a slice of the pie. But they don't have the time to manage a process. Funny
So
story.
true.
My first review, I don't want to say the brand, it was a QSR, it was a restaurant. And it was my second review. And I really didn't know what I was doing. And that's part of maturity is being able to say that.
Absolutely.
And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I took part in, several hundred RFPs, and I thought I could do it. And so he said, let's do it. Send me a proposal so I can send it to my CFO with your fee. And on everything I wrote, assisting, helping, assisting the CMO, assisting the marketing department. And he wrote me right back. He said, you need to cut this shit out with assisting. That's a squishy word. I'm hiring you to lead the process, manage the process. So every time you have the word assist, you take that out and put lead or manage, because I have a full-time job.
Such a great point.
So I learned it on my second proposal that these folks, if they're good, they don't have time to run a review. And it's the ones who are always looking for a job that say, oh, I can run my own review. I don't know you. That's a guarantee that within 18 months, that person will be looking for a new job because they've neglected their job they think part of
Yeah.
their job is doing something they're not trained to do.
Wow.
But that I hope that story
No,
illustrates. Yeah.
definitely. And I think in that, I think one, brand marketers in the audience, take that to heart. Like focus, part of your daily job is figuring out where you need to focus your energies. And so consider when you have a resource that will lead and run that process for you, you get to focus on your main job. Which helps you to
Right.
keep your job. And we all know that CMOs have a there's often a short runway of for evaluating if you're successful or not. And then agencies in the audience, keep that in mind. Like so many times the agencies, I think, we're taught to, people from the agency side are taught to like really develop the relationship with the brand person, speak to them directly. But remember, folks in the audience, if that person at the brand, yes, you want them to have a great opinion with you. Yes, you want to have the right touch points, but they'll probably actually really appreciate it if you also build a great relationship with the person who's running those reviews. So, just keep that. I think those are really great things for both the agency side and the brand side to keep it.
Yes, ma'am.
So we've, again, I want to make sure that we covered both sides of what we do with the Palma Group and Change Forces coming together, the two forces coming together. And so not only have we announced this partnership, we are also giving people who are listeners of this first access to a new offering that we have that brings together the experience of both sides. And again, it's a workshop, and we're announcing it here so that listeners can get on the wait list. If you're interested, you can reach out to me and Mike or Mike directly. It's a business development diagnostic workshop. So this is where you're going to get sort of that best of both worlds. We're going to be able to come in and help you figure out very quickly what's working, what's not, what pain points exist and solutions for it. Our philosophy at Change Force is sort of get in, get out, get in, make an impact, get out, set you up for success, as the client to keep things forward. So, again, is there anything that you want to make sure that we touch on that I may have missed at a, very high level about that workshop, Mike?
Well, I mean, I think just by the name diagnostic workshop means it's customized.
Yeah, great point.
I'm not a cookie cutter guy. I've done a few hundred of Palma Group workshops,
Right.
and none of them no two were remotely alike.
That's a great point.
It's almost like a Bob Dylan concert. Like he never plays the song the same way twice, And so, hey, it's guaranteed. I don't need to say more than this. It's guaranteed to change your life or your money back. Okay, I've said that forever, or my money back. You got the Change Force can keep your money, but I won't take unless you tell me that you need to tell me it changed your life, and then I'll send an invoice. But it's done that, and we got the stories to back that up.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about doing a different. Playing with a new band here or whatever. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I really appreciate from all the interactions and the work I've been doing in the Change Force space and, starting to work with you is there is a no bullshit element of the way we work with each other, the way we work with clients. So I think it's something for people in the audience. If you're like, oh gosh, here they go, more consultants, and I'm going to get a big deck of something that I end up putting on my shelf. This is there's always we're humans. There's the filter of human. There's a kindness to things. But it's no bullshit. And it truly is aimed at making impact, us feeling proud of the work we're doing, and the proud of, again, to your point, like, is this actually changing the game for our clients? So, let's, as we are closing out our episode here, I just want to make sure that we're leaving people with some takeaways, some key takeaways. So, from all the things that we discussed today, what do you want to make sure that brand marketers take away from this episode?
Brand marketers, don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Hey, there's a lot of agencies. What is there? 600? I don't know how many agencies, but for most brand marketers, there's not 100 agencies that are the real deal. Most brands. So don't be fooled by cheap creative or cheap strategy. I mean, when you see what's real in creative or strategy or account service, it's just like looking at a fake diamond in a jewelry store. You know the real deal when you're at Tiffany or wherever. So that's one takeaway there for brand marketers.
Yeah, that's great. And
there is an inverse proportion to like the bragging and the product.
Right.
Like the more you got to brag about your product, the not so good it's going to be. And the less you have to say about it, the better the product's going to be. So don't get sold.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So that's the brand marketer side of things. What do we want to make sure that the agencies take away?
Tone down your bragging. We know how most case studies begin. you know, when Acme Corporation came to us, they were up Schitt's Creek, and our great, you know, proprietary intellectual capital trademarked turned their company around. I mean, come on, you know, be humble. You know, we were honored to work with Acme Corporation.
Yeah.
You know, we're fortunate. We were fortunate that they threw us what appeared to be an insignificant assignment. You know, always undersell, underestimate. So, you know, I think we're in such a world of bragging, and I wanted to avoid the H word because there's this new term on LinkedIn. It's called the humble brag. You know, like, you know, the humble brag is I'm honored to be so great. You know, in life. You know, like, you know, so one bit of advice: walk with a humble swagger.
Yeah,
Feel
absolutely.
good about your value proposition,
Exactly.
but temper your ego.
Yeah, exactly. So, folks, I hope that you've taken a lot away from this episode. Again, we've got give your book another plug.
Huh?
So it's called Walk with a Humble Swagger: Lessons from the Recruiting Trail and in Basketball and Advertising. So it is out. It came out in early September, I think the 5th.
Thursday the 5th. Yes,
Yep.
ma'am.
And so there is a book signing event happening on the 19th in Atlanta that I am going to be at. So that'll be a lot of fun. And
And
so,
if you don't
yeah,
mind me quickly
please,
interrupting,
please.
George and I just this morning we're talking about putting a New York event
Oh,
together
nice.
in
Okay.
mid to late October.
Okay, great. So stay tuned, folks. I will bring that to you as well. So get that book, put it on your list. I cannot wait to get it in my hands. And I say that truly. I really appreciate that leadership athlete mindset that you bring to the table. It's great to be a part of. So, and then we have the new partnership between the Palma Group and Change Force, bringing together the work that we do. And we are, as I said, we are announcing our new to be released business development diagnostic workshop. So if you're interested in it, if you want to get on the wait list before it's out to the general public, reach out to me and or Mike, and we can talk about that. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Mike, thank you. It is always a pleasure. It is always fun to get on calls with you. So I appreciate you, and I look forward to meeting in person.
Same here. Thanks, Shauna. Just can't believe, as much as I've admired your podcast, it was even better than I expected. I
Oh,
expected it to be great, but it was even better. And
oh,
I've done a shit pot of podcasts the last few weeks. This one was the best. Thanks so much.
thank you so
Yep.
much. All right, everybody, have an amazing day.
See ya.